So I want to welcome today again Alejandra Silva, the director of Venture Cafe Miami. For those who don't know her, Alejandra is a marketer, it's a friend. It's all things communication. So I'm gonna allow herself to introduce herself and then get us started with today's workshop. So go for it, Ale.
Thank you, Lou. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. I am extremely excited and honored to be able to share with all of you. I see some faces from the last workshop, but maybe you can drop a heart or a hint if you were here on the storytelling workshop we did about a month ago. I see a few hearts, Andrea, Antaria. I see some in the chat as well. Well, I am super excited. And for those who weren't here, please know that on the website of Miami Open for Business, you can access that resource. I believe that that initial session, it's 100% tied into the second one and they go hand in hand. But I'm going to start by sharing a little bit about myself. I am Alejandra Silva, as Lou mentioned. Today, I'm the director of Venture Cafe Miami, but honestly, I am just a small town girl from Nicaragua. I arrived to Miami about 11 years ago. My background is started in the hospitality industry, actually, where I also founded my small business in jewelry. My passion for marketing actually started there. And with time, I had the amazing pleasure to land at the Cambridge Innovation Center, where I actually led programming and educational sessions for our internal community. And fast forward, today I lead Venture Cafe Miami with an amazing team who is here with us, Javiera and Danilo. They will be also supporting you in the chat as we have this collaboration. And I want to call it a collaboration because the idea is that we build this workshop together. I want to learn from you, and I want to also give you intentional feedback. So please know that we're going to make this as interactive as possible. And the whole goal is that I can give you intentional advice and that you can also leave with tangible resources that you can take home with you and you can use to continue developing your brand and also showcasing it in your channels. So again, I'm Ale, and if there's anything you need from me further, also I'll share with you my social media and Venture Cafe Miami. For those who are not familiar, it's also a centralized space for community to convene and meet new connections. Radical partners and other organizations are part of our amazing group of leaders and stakeholders that help us build this community. So know that Venture Cafe Miami will drop the website on the chat. It's also a space where you can connect and meet others that are within your sector or not, that could help you also continue growing the work that you do locally. It's your home, and it's a home for everyone that you invite, a free and accessible space where we convene on a regular basis. Amazing. So I was telling you a little bit more about our previous workshop. It was all about really building your story. And in that workshop, we actually share a very easy framework that some of those that were here last time were able to storytell and build a foundational asset that will help you have a resource and a story that you'll be able to unify within all your channels, whether it was your website, whether it was your newsletters, whether it was your elevator pitch deck, or even how you communicate about your organization in social media. This was basically the starting point to then have something that you can utilize in a cohesive way in all your platforms. So again, if you want to go back into that workshop, I 100% recommend it, especially if you're going to receive this one, because you're going to be able to mirror them and play with them hand in hand. So today, after we build the story, after we already understand how to communicate and put out there to the work that we do, which we actually did it through the why, how, who method last time, then we are ready to tell everybody and build awareness about our initiatives, about why we do the work that we do, which is 100% your purpose. And then also to who and what do you do, and how do you actually build, whether it is your community, your initiatives, how do you build your impact, right? And in order to do that, you also need foundational assets. And we're going to focus today in two areas. After we build our story, we want to make sure that we have some cohesive visuals that we can actually spread through our channels. And then we're going to dive in a little bit deeper around which are those channels and how do you leverage them according to how each one of these platforms vary from one another. I was looking that you actually, all of you use social media. I love seeing the podcast initiatives. If you want to drop some of your links to your podcast, I would love to hear them. And I'm sure a lot of those in the call as well. I think it's a great tool to build awareness. And amazing enough, if you're creating content on a podcast, it's a great way to build more content for your social media and repurpose that content. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I also love that Joanne mentioned the differentiators in between platforms and how do you communicate different around these platforms, because I think that plays a really big role. And that's part of what we're going to be chatting today. Okay, so okay, there we go. So we're deploying our brand. We have our message, our key messaging. We understand our why, so people understand our purpose. We also understand what we do, right? And then we also understand how we spread it to the world, right? And so once that we have those three elements and we've narrowed them down, we create assets. I call them these digital assets. And a lot of you have a website, a lot of you have those social media platforms, and a lot of you are constantly also going to events. I would love to also understand, for those who mention word of mouth, what exactly are you referring to? Do you go and set up tables in different initiatives? Do you attend networking events? How do you build your awareness also face to face? I think it's also great insight for us to have also further discussion around those lines, because a lot of these visual elements and a lot of these assets that we're going to talk about, although they impact social media and digital channels, you can also leverage them when you go out there into the world and talk to people face to face. So we're going to talk about the basics, and I call the basics because before you build your resources for social media, for your website, for your podcast, for your YouTube channel, there is a foundation. Just so there is a foundation in your story, there is also a foundation for your digital assets. And the reason why this is extremely important, it's because this is what allows your brand to be cohesive, to be connected, so that people, when they jump and hear from you from different iterations, whether it is at an event, whether that they see your website, whether you look at your social media, there is an intersection, there is a connection. And a lot of what we're going to talk about right now is extremely superficial, but believe it or not, there's two amazing elements when it comes to deploying your brand, when it comes to communicating. And the first one, obviously, it's a lot around your story and how you communicate. How do you speak about that? But then there is this visual element. And then there is this pleasure that we have when things look beautiful, literally, as superficial as that sounds, when they're all interconnected, when they all make sense. We build something called visual loyalty. And I guarantee you that you will look forward to circle back around an initiative, around a business, around a product, when it's visually appealing as much as it is beautifully communicated. And so we're going to tap into the basics and the very, very basic foundation that you will need to deploy your brand. And a lot of you might tell me today, hey, I actually have my social media out there into the world, but I never build the basics. It's never too late to start. And the most amazing thing is that once that you have it, you are ready to put it out there. If you want to build it yourself, if you understand graphic design, it's a very unique tool that you will be using hand in hand with your resources. But if not, it's a one-time investment. If you know a graphic designer, if you know somebody in the community that understands digital assets, it's a one-time investment that it will last a lifetime. Yes, it can be iterated, but this is basically where it all starts. And I'm gonna share with you examples of Venture Cafe Miami, of our visual assets. And then we'll also give you some templates that you can leverage so you can build your own brand kit. So we're gonna start with the very basics, and is having a logo. A lot of you might have a logo, a lot of you might be building the logo right now, but something really important is that you have basically different iterations of your logo, whether it is one that it's vertical, whether it's one that it's more horizontal in different colors. This is the very basic foundation that you will need in order to make your brand consistent and cohesive, right? The second thing, it's really establishing your fonts, your typography. Usually what I see a lot is that we might have a logo and then we start experimenting a lot around Canva, around, designing flyers. And I don't know if you've seen, but when you go to social media, or when you go into the LinkedIn, they all have different flavors. That it's not that the flyer it's not beautiful, that it doesn't look good, but it's not cohesive within your brand. And so in order to build this visual loyalty, you will need to also establish 3 to 5 different fonts that you will be carrying along your brand history, or along your brand communication strategy. And so as you can see here, we pick one specific font, which is Montserrat. And then this font actually has about 4 different iterations of it, that when we put them together in a flyer, it allows us to build that cohesiveness, but also create a little bit more of creative flair, where you can see different iterations of it. So really choosing that font along with a few 2 or 3 iterations will make a difference as you build your resources. The third piece for your brand kit, it's going to be your color palette. You really want to marry to 3 to 5 colors again. And I would suggest that you usually use 3 at the very top. So then you can really just plug and play with different tones within your flyers, within your banners, within the pamphlets that you bring to the events, and even within your logo. As you can see here, we have 3 different tones that are very much those that we don't only apply into the colors that we put in our photos in social media, but they're also tied into our logo. Then the last piece, it's basically key visuals. And what are key visuals? Key visuals are those additional elements that will be around your flyers. You probably seen I was looking at the key visuals on this Miami Open for Business. They have unique set of elements that they repeat again and again within their flyers. And this makes it organized. It makes it appealing to the eye. And so we have 6 different stickers that actually represent our brand. And then we have these triangles that go down, that they're usually carried on, not only in our flyers, in our social media, but even in our pitch decks, in our presentations. This is what I call our basic identity, meaning that if somebody sees us from far apart, they will know that that triangle represents Venture Cafe Miami. And so 4 key elements here. The first one, it's really having that foundational logo within different atmospheres, meaning that vertical, that horizontal, that if you send it to a partner, if you're going to participate in an event, you can drop it in a Google Drive and they can use it, and you establish it. So then you don't have people also playing with your logo, changing your colors. I don't know if that happens to you, but it's happened to us that we send a specific logo, and because it doesn't fit the flyer, then they make iterations of it. But if you establish them and you send those iterations, then this helps also your partners have that visual identity set by you. Then second one, it's your font, your typography. The third one, it's your color palette, really marry to 3 to 5 different colors, and then really establishing those key visuals. In Canva, for those that use Canva, if you put brand kit template, it will give you different iterations of this exact same element, and you can just plug them in and really just frame them around your actual brand. So highly recommended that as you deploy your brand, as you build your assets, as you build your flyers, you have this foundational element. As basic as it seems, it really is what carries your entire communication strategy moving forward. If you guys have any questions, by the way, please drop them in the chat. Please interrupt me. I'm happy to pause. And I want to show you a little bit of how all these elements or some of these elements look in one specific piece. And I want to say that these are like puzzle pieces. They're always available, but we don't always have to use them. That means that I don't always have to use all the fonts. I don't always have to use all the colors. I don't always have to use all the stickers, but it's beautiful and a lot easier for you to have a library where you can just plug and play and build your assets forward. Okay, so let me show you here how does a flyer of Venture Cafe Miami looks all together. As you can see, we have that triangle, which is our asset. In this case, we use a rectangular version because of the shape of the actual flyer. And this was actually a presentation that it's part of our opening speech at an event. And then we use one of the basic standard fonts that we show there to you. And so this is how some of our elements look together. I mentioned to you, you don't always need to use them, but they're always available for you. So this is the very basic. This is how we start. This is how we take off. This is that specific foundation that I highly recommend for you to have if you don't have it yet, if you don't use it. If you have it, if you use it, I encourage you to revisit it because it's very important and people can see it from the other side. Even though you don't believe it, like people can actually see it. So it's important that you build that cohesiveness. Okay, great. Why don't you drop in the chat who has a brand kit, who has something that you use and you leverage to actually build your resources. I'm seeing a lot of comments here, so I would love to maybe either drop in the chat, or let me close this here, drop in the chat or raise your hand, put a little emoji that I can see that you actually have something similar to this. If not, I encourage you to make sure you take advantage of it. Okay, so next thing we're gonna talk about. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Next thing we're going to talk about. In our previous workshop, we talked a little bit about building a story around a framework very similar to this. And now this is a different framework, but it's basically applied to social media platforms. And when I'm going to focus on 3 specific ones that a lot of you use, are the most common ones. But for those who are doing YouTube, for those who are building podcasts and really repurposing your content in social, this also applies. So you'll be able to take advantage of it. And again, this is very foundational, but it really applies to everyone, despite the type of work that we do, the type of impact that you build. This is like the most essential elements that you need to know, that not only differentiate in between platforms, but you will need to consider according to your audience and how you deliver your content. So we're going to talk about the why, the who, and the how. And your why, as within your story, it's pretty much tied to your purpose about why are you doing what you do. The who, it's your audience. It is those who are receiving the content that you're putting out there. And the how, it's basically the format, the personality, the language that you're using to connect with others. And we're going to talk about this when it comes to 3 different platforms that you mentioned that you use. And I know that this might be like, well, this is basic. I really just use it for everyone. Well, I want to tell you that in order for you to take full advantage of what these platforms do, you really need to understand how they differentiate in between each other, and how can you really build intentional content, not only for those that you are communicating towards, but really what type of content makes sense for the platform itself. What does the algorithm picks up and can help you in order to make this content, whether it is viral, whether reach new people, whether reach the correct audience, and how do you keep these groups engaged, which I think that long term, it's really what we battle the most, because I believe that all of us can build content and throw it in there and see what happens, but we really lose motivation, and it's natural for us to just get sidetracked and pause. And really, in order for our social media strategy, our communication strategy to be successful, the most important thing is consistency and frequency. And usually those elements really come with enough foundation and with enough experimentation. Unfortunately, I would love to tell you that there is a set method when it comes to social media strategy or awareness strategy, but it's really building as we go. It's really trying new things and see how your purpose, your audience, your format, your personality, and your language makes sense to your communities the most. And this is really built within time. It doesn't happen within your first post or your second post. So it's super, super important that you keep this in mind along the way. Okay, so we're gonna start with a super popular one, which we all use, and it's personally one of my very favorites with this, which is Instagram. I saw a lot of you saying that only use Instagram. A lot of you mentioned that use it within the scope of other platforms. And so what is the purpose of this platform, and what is the purpose that you should use at least for this platform? So the first one is definitely building brand awareness. It is the most authentic platform, and I would say that it's also the most flexible platform, which means that you are not only able to use it to show your personality and who you are and your impact, but it's also very human. But at the same time, it's very much a platform that it isn't for, let's say, professional purposes, but you can communicate on a very genuine way your value proposition, and really build that unique awareness and identity about your brand. This platform allows you to humanize a little bit the work that you do. And I want to say that clearly, because when you don't understand how the content impacts the algorithm and the platform itself, and let's say you just use it to project like very strong facts, like data driven content, then you are not supporting the algorithm, the purpose of the platform itself. So it's important that you understand that this is a platform that you want to humanize it as much as possible, and you want to be really creative in how to use people and how to use your creative assets in order to connect with your audience. So the purpose is to build brand awareness. You can use it to promote your events. It's an amazing platform to promote events. It's about sharing insights about who you are, and it's about building community. This is the actual platform that, since you're humanizing it so much and you're connecting at a personal level, but also intentionally around your brand, people will feel you different. I'll explain to you right now the difference on how these two roles play in between Instagram and LinkedIn. But basically, it allows you to project yourself at a more ground level. And I think this is very unique, and we can really use it at your advantage. Who is usually your audience in a place like Instagram? Your team, most definitely. And if they're not, they should definitely be some of your strongest advocates on that platform. Your friends and family. This is definitely the platform that I know a lot of you. Let's see. I see some questions here. Would love to have some review and give feedback towards our usage of IG. Okay, well, I'm gonna come back to you, Belinda, so we can chat a little bit further about that. And so your audience will be your team, your friends and family, your community. This will be your advocates. This is who will basically be on your Instagram, and why I put it in paper and I put it out there. And it's because if you know that these are the ones that are in there, then you should be able to put together the type of content that you will build for them. And so if you know who is in there, if you analyze, if you go to those followers and look who are those actually gravitating around your platform, it will help you understand what type of content they will receive the best and how will they engage within this platform with you. And the format here, as I mentioned, which is 100% tied to the platform itself, it's about making it very human, very relative, very casual. This is where you want to show your team day to day. This is where you want to just get a little bit more comfortable and perhaps be drinking a cup of coffee and share a little bit about your story, share a little bit about how you build yesterday's workshop and how are you putting it together today. An example would be that yesterday when we were discussing with the team how this was going to happen, we actually took some clips. We took advantage of the moment and we were like, you know what, tomorrow we're going to show people how we build this workshop, and then we're going to grab some quick clips on the Zoom call and we're going to show the delivery. We're going to show how that came to life. And these are some content ideas that, as basic as they look, they don't really take a lot of your time. And this is what people want to see on your Instagram account. So take advantage of those moments where some of you are creating your podcast, the behind the scenes, when you guys are all just talking to each other and brainstorming. Put a central camera there and leave it recording, and then use it to grab clips and bits that you can repurpose on your social media. And this is a smart content creation. We're going to talk a little bit more on the next few slides about this, but really utilizing the most authentic part of your day-to-day and your brand and your meeting and everything that you have around you that usually will not be something that you thought about it and created within a huge strategy is what really works the best for these platforms. The format, as I mentioned, reels are what the algorithm puts out there the most. Everything video created, it's very unique. And the beautiful thing about Instagram is that it doesn't need to be a full production. It doesn't need to be this wild, camera central with different, frames. The most basic elements work really well with Instagram, and will leave you also some resources and templates that you can use and leverage to add audios, to add music, and really make it unique. And also leverage, that human connection that the community wants to see. What happens here is that when you take advantage of your purpose, which we share here, when you understand your audience, and then you put it together within this language and personality that it's relative, that it's human, and that it's casual, more people wants to gravitate around you. And those that that you're building towards become more engaged and more committed to want to interact with your content. So this is a little bit from Instagram. And the second platform that we're going to talk about, it's about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, it's definitely a platform that I see a lot of repurposed content. I see a lot of people that create something for whether it's Instagram or Facebook, and then they use the exact same type of content for LinkedIn. And I don't blame you, because I see the similarities and I think that there is a lot of overlap, but there's some key elements that are different. And we're going to talk about it within this framework of the purpose, the audience, and the format. So as you can see, there is overlap on the purpose. You also want to build brand awareness. You also want to promote events. You also want to share insights about who you are, and you also want to build that community. But who's the audience here? Aside your team and your community, which might be those that you meet at an event, other professionals. It's also your possible partners. It's also your possible donors. It's also those that might want to engage with you at a more professional level. And what changes here in terms of the communication? It's that your language, your personality, it's more insightful, it's more formal. This is where you want to talk about impact, about your data, about elements that really project you from that more professional scope. Let's say that if tomorrow you are going to be talking about the event that you will be leading, let's talk about a session or maybe an educational moment that you will project to the community. In Instagram, I would suggest that you sit down with your team and you talk about it in terms of how amazing the work that you do and how can you be part of it. I will suggest a format that makes it very relative, very human. In LinkedIn, I will suggest you that you record a video where you talk specific data about your impact and why what you're going to be educating people in this phase, in this workshop, or in this presentation will really move the needle for your community. And I know that it might feel very similar, but when you put it in between platforms, it's 100% different because those who are seeing you in LinkedIn might play a different purpose for your organization than those who are seeing you on Instagram. And this is really important for you to take into account. Another really important trick that I want to leave you here is that in Instagram, Reels and video format are at the very top. On LinkedIn, carousel pictures are the ones that move the needle the most for the algorithm. So when you go out there into your events, when you're creating that podcast, when you are, networking with groups, I recommend you to grab different angles from your interaction and use this to boost that alternative on LinkedIn. The video formats work well, but you will see that engagement is driven further through carousels, through pictures. And so take that as just a little trick, play with it and see how does that work with you. And another additional resource that I don't know if any of you know that you have in LinkedIn, it's that you can actually stream live events. So this is a great tool because it's fairly new for the platform. It was launched around a year and a half ago. But if you have an event and you have that capability of actually streaming your event and setting up a phone or a camera, this is great content because you can really capture what's happening live and then you can leave it hanged on your actual LinkedIn profile. Annette, you have a question?
So I recently started creating the LinkedIn page for my organization. And one of the things that we were a little bit confused about was because you can create like a personal page and then turn it into a business one. So one of the things that we weren't sure about is like whether we should keep it as like a personal page because it allows us to like invite people to connect, or if we should just like, have strictly the business page and then managing between the two of them, because it was like kind of like you're managing two platforms in one. So that was a little bit confusing for us to navigate. So I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Thank you, Annette. That is an amazing, amazing question. And the answer is you should have both. You should have everybody on your team should have their personal profile, and you should have your organization's profile separately as well. Why? Because people are going to want to connect with you as a leader and they're going to message you directly, and that will build a funnel, that will build a pipeline that you can then redirect to your actual company's page. And as you build your personal page as well and your personal connections, which are very important, and when you go out into your events or when you go out and meet with other stakeholders, people are going to connect with you. And that is the most basic foundation. So you want to build your personal connections and have those within your profile. But then also LinkedIn allows you to invite people to like your company's page. So you want to make sure you take advantage of that. And those that currently are in the call and actually have a personal profile and haven't done this is super easy. You go into your LinkedIn and there is a button at the very top that says invite your connections to like or follow your company's page. And this is just a great, easy resource that it's free, that allows you to build that funnel into your event space. So to your question, Annette, and thank you for that, because I think that's really key and it's really valuable, is that you should have both. And that also allows you to redirect traffic, which means that if you have more connections than people that has seen and follow your page, you can post on your personal LinkedIn, and then you can share your company and really start moving that traffic in between profiles. And this applies for your team as well, as you guys all build your personal connections all together as a team, can funnel them into your actual LinkedIn company's page. So thank you for that question. I think it's great, and it's extremely useful. So the last one that we're going to talk about is Facebook. So Facebook goes hand in hand with Instagram. It's very easy. This should be connected to your Instagram. There is an option that you can share the content from your Instagram to your Facebook. It's also used to build brand awareness. You can promote events. You can share insights about who you are. There's a catch with Facebook, and this shifted when Instagram became a monster, really. And it's that in Facebook, you gotta pay to play. In order for you to build that page, in order for this to be used for, purposes of getting sales or building a bigger community, it's pretty much a platform that ended up being ultimately for paid ads purposes. So it's really driven by the algorithm for those who invest in the platform, and it's pretty much used for conversion, meaning that if you have a paid event, if you have, let's say, if you're selling a piece to fundraise, then this is a platform that it's pretty much the queen of ads in between Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Obviously, you can use all of them, and you can pay ads in all of these platforms. But then I feel that Facebook is the one that doesn't give you a lot of organic visibility, but it's always useful to just use this tool that I mentioned to you, which is, having your Instagram account connected to your Facebook, and just repurpose the same content that goes into your Instagram into your Facebook. Same, you're going to have your team, your friends, your community, and reels and carousels are really those that move the needle the most there. But it's pretty much used, as I mentioned to you, for conversion purposes, and it requires a budget. And I suggest you that if you want to play with that, you talk to a professional about it, because you can really lose a lot of money just dropping money in there and seeing what happens with the algorithm, because the page is specifically structured for those purposes. In Facebook as well, same as Annette's question, there is your personal profile, and there should be a company page. They shouldn't be overlapped, they shouldn't be the same. And it should be really pretty much tied to your company's page, your business company page on Instagram as well. Okay, so if anybody has any question, this is a great moment. We're gonna talk about something completely different than these platforms. And we'll also leave some time to Q&A at the end. So I'm gonna talk about what for me is the most important part of absolutely everything. And I say this because you can have beautiful visuals, you can have all this knowledge about why do you use each platform for, how do you put them into live, how do you share it, and why, and your story, etc. But if you don't have this next part, I feel that not only you will waste a lot of time, but it won't really move the needle. This is by far what I feel what makes a successful communication strategy really a winner. Really what not only makes you deliver content that makes sense, but that really allows you to maximize your time the most. And I think before I'm gonna show, I had here some pictures and some examples of some of the elements that we use on social media in terms of content. So you can see here, rather than doing a video with the 3 speakers on LinkedIn, we use the carousel. And Instagram also plays really well with carousels, and we share a little bit about what happened in the evening of the event. Instagram, it's really cool. If you don't do this, if you have a partnership with different groups, I encourage you to leverage collaborations. As you can see here, with the amazing Radical Partners team. A few weeks back, we delivered Miami Fuck Up Nights, and we make sure that we co-created a strategy together on social media, and we share resources, and this allows us to really tap into different communities of followers, and that is a really great trick that I actually forgot to mention on Instagram, to build your community further through collaborating in between posts if you're building awareness together. This is more examples. Here's, for example, how we share a recap of a night at Venture Cafe. Let me show you here so you can take a look at one of the reels. And in this reel, you are gonna see what I mentioned to you. It's not produced, but it's okay. So as you saw on that one, it's not fully produced. It wasn't a professional videographer. It was us snapping elements of the evening, and we use a template, and we'll leave you the platform that gives you those templates that you just have to plug them in, export, and post it in your social media. And so, okay, this is the foundation, the most important thing, and it's the planning. And I feel that when I speak with other founders, when I speak with other leaders that are building social media content, and they tell me, this is hard, Ale, like this is just too much. Like, I don't know how you guys do it to stay consistent and stay different. And it's all here. It's all, absolutely everything. It's on the planning. I wanna just do a quick touch point before we continue, and it's maybe drop in the chat who plans ahead their content and who actually basically just goes week by week and they put it out there. And trust me, I'm at fault of that too. I do that very often with my personal profile. I don't do a lot of planning, but I feel that with time, what we notice is that basically, Belinda, I'll show you I'll give you the template. I'll show you the platform with the templates towards the end. And right now I want to read, okay, I see, I do not, we plan the month ahead. Amazing. When we don't plan, we can easily go a month without posting anything. I agree with that. We fell off track. Let's see. I recently started planning, but also resort to posting randomly too, Fabian. Okay, great. I think I'm going to give you a tool that is going to help you with that. Andrea says a combo, but mostly week by week. That's a great start. I think that's great. Week by week, it's a great starting point. Andrea says we have a social media calendar. And yes, Belinda, we're going to give you a tool that maybe for those who basically are already planning, you will complement it, it will add it, or we can see how can we intertwine it with what you already use. But then also for those who don't have something, this is going to help you get organized and get consistent and really have some sort of cohesive connection in between the content that you're putting out there. Okay, so somebody mentioned there a calendar, and yes, as basic as this looks, a calendar is extremely, extremely important. You can't go off without a calendar. And a calendar has really, really important elements that allow you not only to be cohesive in between what platforms that you're using or what kind of content are you using, but also really align with your pillars, with who you are and how is the entire scope of who you are diversify in between your platforms. And so the team is going to drop in the chat a template that it's for you to use, for you to update. I'm going to ask you to make a copy of it. And then you can go ahead and repurpose it for your own brand. So the first thing I want to show you here on the template, it's these key assets that you see on the right. These are your content pillars. And this basically are those puzzle pieces that I mentioned at the beginning that you can plug and play and really use towards your content. So at Venture Cafe Miami, we do partner spotlights, we do speaker spotlights, we have Thursday gatherings, we have countdowns. There are days that we also use to create content, and we assign colors to it. You are more than welcome to, align with the colors that you love or the colors of your brand. But this will help you make this calendar connected to those key elements that you'll be using. If you're running an ad campaign, you can also put it out there here. If there is a holiday, all those key elements should be all living here within this actual content calendar. Then over here on the right, you're gonna see another tab that if you click on the edit button, you can also just tailor according to each one of your colors. This is basically a tool that you can change around your very own assets and those elements that align. You don't need that many of them. If you don't have so many content pillars and you just focus on 2 or 3, you can definitely just delete a few of them and then align them according to the needs of your very own communication channels. And personally for us, we do a few things, right? We do social media. We build a lot of awareness through our newsletters. We also create sometimes content through our podcast and some content also around our day-to-day that we don't only put out there in social media, but then we sometimes leverage at our Thursday gathering as well. And so what we like, it's really having it all together in one place. If you want to use this just for your social media, feel free to do so. For us, because our content in social media, it's 100% connected to what we are projecting in our newsletter. We like to be able to see it from a full picture. So as you can see here, on a regular week, we know that on a Monday, the newsletter is going to go out. There's also going to be a social media post that is going to go around this. And it can be around 2 different elements. So newsletter is going to be around Turkish Innovation Night, and social media is going to be about who we are as Venture Cafe. And I think if you were to talk to your team in terms of putting this information separately, it will be really confusing. But if you map it out and you put it all together in a calendar, it's even easier for others to build along you. And so important that you put it on a place where you can see it from a broader picture. You should also list here in which platforms this is going out. As you can see here, we put it out there on LinkedIn, we put it out there on Google My Business, and then throughout the entire month, we would highlight special events, holidays. If you want to create content, I don't know, for International Women's Day, all these things should live here. And then also, you can really just diversify according to what are you doing. So for example, our Thursday gatherings are our events of the month. And so we also include them here. So we can not only have a picture from the in-person delivery, but what do we need to do in our marketing campaign in order to lead to these elements. So this is how this looks, but also in your template, there are a few things that are also tools that you can use, and I encourage you to use them. Let me make this a little bit smaller. Let's see, 90, okay, great. The first thing is that you should have the assets that you need. This is for your team. This is so you can actually assign certain things into your team deliveries. And my main suggestion is that you don't do it in a way where every week you have to be stopping whatever you're doing to create content. It's basically scheduling one day every other week or one day per month, if you can, to batch content. What does that mean? That if you create your calendar, you sit down with your team and you say, okay, next month in April, we're going to focus on these 4 events that we have going on. We're going to meet with these partners. We're going to be delivering this initiative in the community. These are our 3 main things that are going to be happening. We need to make sure that we map them out here, and any content that you want to build, you assign a day so you can create it. So you can create it ahead of time. And so your entire creative juices within your own scope are fully focused in that moment. Because what happens with creativity is that really, if you are working the next 2 hours on a pitch deck and then you start creating content, then you're really moving in between two different pieces. So really aligning a day or a half day to create content and to really just have fun and go all out into building this calendar, it will help you build time more effectively, but also very much time efficient. So I 100% encourage you that. And then having this organization where you have the date, you know that you're going to be creating it, what would be the event, what's the core element, what kind of assets do you need? Do you need pictures? Do you need to create videos? Doesn't need to be edited, doesn't need to come from a partner or a speaker that you're going to need the content from. Everything should live here, and then you should mark here by your team or yourself once that these elements are completed. Then also here, something that I love to leave you as a tool, we use it a lot, are some, you know, relevant things that happen throughout the year that can help you create fun content, or, you know, they can just be resources for you to plug in within your events, your initiatives, your alternatives that you use to connect with your community. And you can plug in there, I don't know, if we're going to talk about Pride Month, what are some intentional content that you can build around it. So having some themes around the year, and this is very much stuff that we use with Venture Cafe. I think a lot of you can also use some of this as well. Will also help you be more creative. So this is almost like a creative tool for you to infuse your content about your organization. The other part is that in this same calendar, you have to create your copy. It shouldn't leave in a place outside a document, or you shouldn't be underrun creating the copy and the caption that you're going to use. And so here you have this tool where you can plug in the date, you got the platforms, and your copywriter or yourself, if you are the one writing the copy, you should type it in here. And once that it's ready, it should be just an easy copy paste into the platform. So that same day that you actually created the content, you can go ahead and leverage this space to plug in your message as well on social. Joanne, you have a question.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much for this, Ale. I think these are great tools, and for those of us who either don't have a communications person on our team or aren't like drawn to this, it could look a little overwhelming. So I wanted to ask, when do you advise we use what tool, right? So you have the calendar one, so you do that once a year. Then how often do you do, like, is it monthly, weekly? If you can tell us how often do you use each tab?
Okay, great. That's a great question. Thank you for that. So the calendar, you use it all the time. It's basically a living tool that it will basically be built. I would suggest a month ahead. You will basically have some time with your team to, whether it is mapping out your content or the events that will be happening through the following months. This should be built all together. It can change as you go if new things happen. So this is a one-off for you to sit down, but then you should be returning to this. So this is the place where you are able to circle back around and get a reminder of not only when should your post go out according to what's going on, but also what are you focusing on. And so again, the calendar should be a moment where you sit down, you create it, you map it out, you find some time to schedule and create content. And then your assets basically come once that you've created that initial touch point and mapped out what are you going to be delivering. I don't know if that answers your question, Joanne. Amazing. And then again, this is another resource. As you build that content and you allocate it that time, then you're gonna basically assign some time as well to write your copy according to the content. And this is a space where it can also live. You can also have it on a shared doc. You can also just plug it in directly on social. But if you build it ahead of time, this is a place where it can all be plugged in together, and you can easily share it with others in your team that support you around this initiative, or for yourself as well. Anybody has any questions around the calendar that I can answer? let's see. In times when you are not having many major events downtime, but you want to stay active on social, what type of content you suggest? That's an amazing question, Antaria. And I think we all go through those times that whether we don't have any engagements or where there isn't a lot going on, where there's time for a holiday, time off. And this is great timing for you to boost who you are, for you to really leverage that downtime to speak about your organization, to speak about Throwback Thursdays. Let's say that a month ago or 2 months ago, you were at an event that happened. This is great moments for you to remind your community what is your core element, how you come to life, to talk about your team, you know, anything that gets outside the scope of the typical delivery that you would have on social media. It's an incredible opportunity also for people to get this reminder, you know, about why are you doing the work that you're doing, and how does this come to life. So downtime as sometimes can feel a little bit overwhelming because it basically sidetracks you from your recurring content. It allows you to bring back to life a little bit of your why and some of the initiatives that you actually deliver to the community. Frank says, can you input the social media post to the calendar that you can cut and paste to social media? Frank, are you referring to the copy, or are you tell me if you're referring to the copy, if it's a cut and paste, or if you're referring to the actual visual asset, whether it is your picture or your video?
Or
Let's-
both, yeah, just both. Thank you, thank you.
No, thank you, Frank. The social media copy you can't. If you're talking about Instagram or LinkedIn, you can actually open them on your browser, and you can just copy paste from here. On LinkedIn, you'll be able to upload your pictures directly from your computer. So the calendar won't necessarily serve you to have the content, let's say, batch in. But what I would suggest, that it's something that we use as well, is that if you put your content on a Google Drive, on a folder where you have everything that you've created, you can have that linked here on the calendar. So if you, let's say, have I don't know, Women's Day, you can go here and you can actually just copy and paste the link of that Google Drive and have that ready to just open up and post it into your content. I'm also gonna share with you a platform right now towards the end on where you can actually schedule your content, and there is a little tutorial that I want you to take home and look at it, because it's a free tool that allows you to just have everything pre-programmed and deliver into your social media, and that usually saves time. Belinda says, a good dedicated VA can also help produce your social media content, much lower price point than a communications director. I have a referral if interested. That's great advice. Thank you, Belinda. Andrea says, we also use this time to engage with our partners and reshare their content to nurture our community. That's amazing, amazing idea, Andrea. I think that's very useful, very unique. And also it allows you to continue connecting with other communities and really just bringing a broader scope into your groups. Claudia says, will you share this template with us? Amazing, we did. Great. So I love it. I'm glad that you guys find this tool useful. And if you have any questions, we are super, super happy to also answer it directly and help you build it. Nalisa, do you have a question? You're on mute.
Hi, thank you so much. Okay, so I just had a comment to ask you about your opinion on that. We have iPhones, I guess, and we have a shared folder for our nonprofit, and basically we upload a photo, and then underneath in the comments section, we put like the Instagram post or whatever the content is, so that people can share it on the team, and that's been like the easiest for us, I guess. What is your opinion on that? I'm sorry.
Love it. I love cats. That's a great question. And what I would suggest when you are using Teams it's to leverage an application, to have a planning app that allows you to all have access to the content in one place and with the copy already there. And that way you are minimizing the logistical work of everybody dropping things and setting up copies. I'm going to show you right now which application is. I think that is it's a very streamlined way to do it, but it's sometimes, you know, it's the back and forth, the having to all plug in things, adding comments, and really not 100% maximizing your time. But then also I would say that having structured time in your calendar to just go over that content together versus everybody plugging and playing at any time will also help you maximize that opportunity, because I feel that a lot of what happens with social media, especially as a team, it's that it's kind of worked in silos, that somebody's doing something, somebody's doing something else, and you don't really have time to align. So maybe on Fridays, there is an hour plugged in where you all make sure that the content is there, you all get together, you review it together, then you put it in the calendar, and then you get ready to push it. I think that's also something helpful, but then maybe this tool that I'm going to share with you can also be something that you can use to minimize that workload and use it as an additional resource as well. Let's see if we have Luciana. Amazing. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for the question. So first tool that I wanted you to take with you, it's CapCut. Those that don't have it downloaded, is free on the Apple Store. It's also on the Google Store. And CapCut, it's basically a very, very useful tool to edit, to add music, to cut different videos. To this reel that I show you on our social media, it actually came from CapCut. And I know you're going to tell me that, you know, it requires a bit of a tutorial to get used to it. But then also, this app not only has tutorials integrated as soon as you download it, it's free as well, but it also has templates. So I mentioned to you that this reel that we did actually came through a template here on CapCut. And I have this visual as well where you can see that it shows you templates. You can type here event promotion at the top, and we'll give you different options already with some effects, with some transitions, and you can just grab the content, add it in there, and place generate template, and you will have basically a resource, a video. And I feel that sometimes, you know, when you don't have a lot of time allocated, or you just don't have time to edit and create something from scratch, this is a very, very user-friendly app that gives you tutorials on a regular basis within the app on how to continue leveraging, but then also gives you all these free resources for you to take advantage of. So if you don't have it, CapCut is definitely one of those tools that will become your best friend when managing social media. Let's see here if anybody has any questions. Let's see. Okay. Then the next one, that few additional resources that we want to give you, aside of CapCut, Canva. If you are not using Canva, it's great not only for that initial element where I mentioned to you of building your brand kit, but then also you can edit some videos there, and it's user-friendly, it's free. There's tutorials as well on YouTube. We're going to share a link with you that you can actually take advantage of, and just really leverage the platform at a full scope. And it's continuously developing, which is super unique. And I feel that Canva at the beginning was a lot about creating flyers, and now it's just become this broader platform where you can not only edit videos, but create presentations and really leveraging a lot of those templates that are already in place. And the last one, when I was talking about programming your content, it's the Preview app. The Preview app, it's another free application that you can download. And this one serves as your opportunity to upload your content, put in the copy, connect it to your Instagram or your social media platform, and have the preview of your actual profile. You can share it with your teams. A lot of people can have access to it. You can just have all your content uploaded there and then start programming it throughout the month. And it auto posts for you. That means that, let's say you created that content calendar that we looked at before, you got that content ready, and the post needs to go out next Monday at 9 a.m. You can schedule it there and it goes out on its own. It's automatic. And this helps you maximize time and really get that opportunity to allow the team to all plug and play within the actual application. The last thing that I want to share around the preview app, and I think it's something really important and that a lot of us forget, it's about measuring how good you're doing. And it's basically utilizing and taking some time once a month to see what's working, to go back into your Instagram, into your LinkedIn, and look at the numbers. Look at which posts are your audiences really connecting and engaging with the most. See what content can you build again if it's working, and which ones are not doing so well. Because I believe that if you allocate some time to measure and to really build intentional changes, then the community can start gravitating around you on a regular basis. So that is basically all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for hearing me out. I wanna be able to answer any questions if you have, but if not, my name is Alejandra Silva. You can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and I'm also happy to be a resource and support you as you build your strategies.